I'm here today to share some information on a current study that I've been working on alongside Scientific Horseshoeing. As a working farrier in everyday situations, we often we observe feet that we believe or even suspect may have a low P3 orientation, i.e. Palmar plantar angle. So Palmar angle in front, plantar angle behind. Currently, the only way of assessing Palmar plantar angle is through radiographic technology. This is often expensive for our clients and not always readily available to us. So the aim of my study was to develop a standardized measurement protocol that would allow me to assess Palmar plantar angle within the field based on trigonometric calculations. It was also important that these measures were not dependent on, for example, foot type, frontal hind, foot management, shod or unshod, or environmental conditions such as domestic versus feral. So I hypothesized that by taking trigonometric measures from the bearing border of the foot would allow me to assess Palmar plantar angle, and that these measures would be equal to those taken radiographically. Okay. Traditionally, Palmar angle is measured utilizing the angle created by the horizontal grain bearing border and the distal margin of P3. I believe, because of remodeling to the distal fringe of P3 due to pathology, that this is often not an accurate way of measuring Palmar angle. So for the avoidance of doubt, we decided to take a second measurement. This was utilising the angle created by the horizontal grain bearing border again, but combined with a line going through the volar arch of the foot, terminating at the proximal aspect of the lower Palmar process. So we've got our traditional measurement that we're all familiar with, and we've got a second measurement, as you can see, which is terminating. So we've got the horizontal grain bearing border, which is terminating at the proximal aspect of the lower Palmar process. Okay. So, moving on. 6 measurements were taken. Heel height, vertical heel height, bearing border length of the foot, frog length, the width between the heels, the depth of the lateral sulci at its deepest point, and the angle created by the lateral sulci. Throughout the study, all 6 of these measurements proved to have a strong positive correlation in predicting both Palmar angle A and Palmar angle B. So I'm going to move on now to the calculation process. Get a little pointer. So take you all back to school, trigonometry. It's a way of calculating missing angles and lengths of sides within a right angle triangle. So we've got the adjacent, the opposite, and the hypotenuse. Okay. So if we measured the length of the frog from the most Palmar aspect of the trimmed central sulci to the tip of the apex of the frog, the true apex of the frog, and wrote that measurement down. And then we took the depth of the lateral sulci at its deepest point. What I've found handy to use is this digital tire depth gauge, which we can use on a ruler, accurately measure the depth. So once we've got these two sets of figures, we can then go on and calculate this angle here. And this angle here is obviously the Palmar angle. So, as an example, I'm going to spin my board around. Find me pen. Better use one of these. So the adjacent, sorry about me scribble, but I can into that. That has changed now to frog length. So let's go for 90 millimeters as an example. Okay? Depth of sulci. Let's give it a bit more. So the board's wobbling. Depth of sulci, let's go for which is 16 millimeters. Drawing the hypotenuse. This is going to be the Palmar angle. So we've got two ways of calculating this now. We can either go old school and plot this onto some graph paper, then use a protractor to calculate this Palmar angle. Or as technology has moved on now, there's hundreds of apps on your phone, and you can just get a trigonometry app where you can type in these two angles, these two measurements, and it will give you the Palmar angle. So if I type in, so we've got here, it shows you everything you've got all your sides. So side B is the adjacent, or the frog length. So that is 90. Side A is 16. And we calculate, it's going to do, I don't know what I brought up then. And that's given us Palmar angle, which is this, angle A, which is this one here, of 10 degrees. But remember, this is depth of sulci. And the depth of sulci, 10 degrees, the depth of sulci is predicting Palmar angle A. And if I turn this back around, Palmar angle A was the angle we created or utilised going up to the proximal aspect of the lower Palmar process. Okay, if we want to predict Palmar angle B, which is our traditional method of measuring Palmar angle, it's exactly the same calculation. It's exactly the same calculation, but instead of the opposite being the depth of the sulci, this is going to be the true heel height, which, let's say, 8 mils. Yeah? So once again, we can go frog length, which we've already got in, is 90. We've got heel height, which is 8 millimeters. Calculate, that gives us 5 degrees, or 5.07, but I don't think we're going to go too into that. 5 degrees. So this information that I've shared with you today, I feel that this may prove to be pivotal in the prevention of pathological changes and result in a more proactive, preventative approach to farrier treatment plans. But also, I think it's a good addition to your toolboxes to give you early warning signs of these. So, to have all this right out, I do apologise. Of these possible detrimental hoof imbalances that, on the positive side, will help the welfare of the equid. And hope you enjoyed that. And any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer. Yes. So through the study, it was a small case study because trying to get vets to supply you with X-rays, you can be a bit cheeky and ask for too much. So it was done on 20 riding score horses. Palmar Angle was predicted, and then the X-rays were taken after, and then we compared the data, and it was around about 95% accurate, yeah. But it was a small case study, okay. I think it would be fantastic to take this further and obviously increase the case study by a few hundred, But obviously we're not always in that position to get that to get those resources in, yeah. These were all done post-trim, sorry. So feet are prepared, and then the measurements were taken.
Do you think it would still be as accurate 6 weeks later, though, when the
Oh, right. That is something that I've not conducted, but I would imagine so as the toes grow, and I'm pretty sure, and everything migrates forward, and then you bring it back again to. I'm pretty sure it would obviously change throughout the shoeing cycle. Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. I think that would be another good study to do before and after at some point. Yeah, moving on. Yeah.
Did you notice any difference in accuracy across breed type or type?
No, not. No, they was all, it was all pretty much standard. It was a variety of horses. To tell the truth, it was mainly cob types, but there was a couple of warm bloods in there. So it was a variety of riding horses. No, not at this stage. It seemed to work for everything. Yeah, shod, unshod. Yeah.
Did you have any particular distorted feet, like club feet or anything like that?
No. The feet that we did test on, to be fair, they were all good sort of quality feet. Taking this further, I think it would be worth doing feet with more sort of pathological problems and distortions to see if it still works on them. But I'm pretty confident it would do. Yeah. What's that, sorry? Well, the app coming. Oh my God, I'm not clever enough for that. Yeah. So, Mark, anything you want to see? He's preparing something. I was going to talk about how the frog lengthened.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really make sure that, you've got things trimmed up for it to be relatively accurate, and that you can identify the true point of quality. But, that'll do. If you think about this, and it was a wake-up moment for me, when you think about it and relate it back to your anatomy, and you think about where that sits inside the hoof capsule, and I'll pass it round now. If you think that orientation inside that hoof capsule on top of the chorea and the plexi, and then think about altering the orientation of the bone column in relationship to this, and remember that this is deformable, it becomes pretty obvious that the method is relatively safely accurate as a predictor for you to say, wait, I think you need to get me some more information. That was the key to it for me. It doesn't matter whether you believe that it should be 5 degrees, 10 degrees, or none. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't equate to what you expect that range to be, and remember that all of these numbers are plus or minus 2 standard deviations, a range. Normal isn't just one number, not the midline, it's a range. If it's done forward in that, that's the point where you can ring an alarm bell and go, I'm not doing this till you get me some more info. Back to the conversation with the ladies, yeah? I have advised you to go and get me some radiographs before some prat comes along and tells me that I'm not doing my job properly. Pass that round. Have another good look at it. And this anatomy thing, I know Neil and Paul do a great job, and especially Paul, who remembers all them long words with all those multiple letters and all that kind of stuff. And it's wonderful. I'm really impressed. But what's the most important thing for us is, where the fuck is it and what the fuck does it do? And how does it affect what we do? Because we don't use it every day. I always reminds me of when we learned to drive. George is young enough. How old are you now? 24. I remember when my IQ was only 24. Oh, sorry, that's your age. Yeah. Well, you'll remember when you started to learn to drive, yeah, and your dad took you around a car park at the supermarket, and the car was going like this, jerking about all over the bloody place. There was grannies flying all over the shop, shopping all on the car park. And now, George, I've seen a video of you. You're driving along the bloody road, you've got your phone propped in one ear, fag in another, bottle of Coke, steering with your knees, and you're doing 60 mile an hour around some country lane. And somehow, you don't manage to crash the van. But what's worse, you managed to do all that without remembering a single word that was in the highway code. Because you don't use the highway code every day, do you? Until a policeman stops you and reminds you that you're now in contravention of it and here's a ticket. Yeah? Well, that happens to us every day. Some vet comes along, he doesn't know what the bloody hell's wrong with it, he can't guess, he hasn't got time. He's got to go and stick his arm up some horse's backside. And he goes, oh, well, it's Barry's fault, feet are out of balance. Well, why can't we tell him we think they're out of balance? You better come and tell madam. And that's what this is about. Right. You got any more to say?
Well, no, I don't think so. I just wanted to just show the method of how we go about measuring these angles. That was the aim for today. Yeah.
Simple.
Unless there's any other questions that you want me to try and answer.
Have you been kicking yourself?
Actually, I got one question for you.
Oh.
No, take this just a little bit further. Seriously, you can identify whether we need some extra help in telling us something. Is this going to take you to a place where you could predict? So you've done so many, so you can look at it and think, actually, this horse wants X.
Before measuring, yeah. Definitely. I think more so by the depth of the sulci. I think you look at some of these sulci and they're quite shallow, and we found obviously the deeper the sulci, the more angle there is to the pila bone. And you see some feet, and straight away from measuring so many now, you think, oh, that's going to be a low angle, or before you've even measured.
You use that as in your toolbox then to decide how you're going.
Yeah. And if I said I measured every horse, I'd be lying. Do you know what I mean? But I measure quite a few now and write it down, and you can. It allows you to keep a record on how you're kind of progressing as a farrier as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, 1 minute you might have a Palmar angle, it might be 3 degrees, and you might look and think, still looks a bit broken back to me, but everything looks in proportion. And then next time you go there, the foot might be hopefully not, but it might be 1 degree, and you think, bloody hell, I need something's going on here. Is the foot being overloaded? Is it something that I'm doing? Is the shoeing package not correct? But it can show improvements as well, so it can go the other way. So if you have got a horse with a low Palmar angle, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, down the line, you can remeasure and say, oh, look at that, we've gone from 2 degrees to 4 degrees, and everything, the horse is going better. And I think I had one horse that was just going back, 8, 12 weeks ago, something like that, when we had that dry spell, and it was one that I'd measured, and it was 5 degrees, ideal, really. Everything it was going well. Loss of performance. And well, we'll have a look at it, trot up, we'll have a look, see what's going on. I would imagine it's the grain. The grain is bloody rock solid at the moment. Maybe we need to give it a bit of protection. And so everything looked all right, Measured the feet, and Palmar angle had dropped 2 degrees. So straight away, put some cord of support. Within 4 weeks, it was back to 5 degrees, and the horse was happy and back to, whether it was the hard grained or whether it was that 2 degree reduction in Palmar angle, I don't know, but it was, yeah.
Right, one last question. We need to push on a little bit.
Regarding your measuring the sulci.
Yeah.
So when you first come to that foot, do you trim the foot up first?
Yes. I trim the foot as I would trim every foot, trimming it to the solar plane, frogs trimmed up. I would say though, when you're trimming, when you're measuring the vertical height of the heel, it's surprising how much periopal that you've got to remove. So you've got to go careful until you get right down to the actual, the true vertical height of the heel. So yes, it's some feet, you think, I don't want to take any more periopal off, but you really have got to be careful and just keep chipping away at it until, and you can see then where it blends into the bulbs of the heel. It has got to be the true height of the heel. And most of the time you have got to remove periopal to get to that point,
Right then, you done?
Yep.
Oh,
Yes,
good, thank
you very
goodness for
much.
that.
Yeah.
You started to make me look stupid. Well done. A big hand for him, please, because that's his first
Thank you.
public presentation.